Turn my little fan on. Let's see, turn the gain down a little bit. There we go. Hello. How are y'all doing? Hello, Elster. Hello. Thank you, Gabriel. I appreciate that. Tap the screen, everybody. Let's see if we can get some people in here. Let's get some debates going. I want to see if I can get some debates going. We've had it's too early. Well, I'm on the east, so it's not too early for me. But it all depends on what you mean by too early. So I find that funny. Too early. Nice. Hey Jess, how you doing? Yeah, East Living. I haven't even finished my lunch because I got home. I made the video. Go watch my most recent video I made on the recent Supreme Court decision that just came out today. So go watch that video if you want to. So go like it, share it. It's very important, very timely. So I made just a quick video about it. But I have to eat my lunch. I have a salad. You can't really see it, but I have a salad that I was trying to eat while I was doing it. It was just all over the place, frankly. So, all right, let's go ahead and get some people on here. Let's see. Hey, what's up? How old are you?
26.
Nice. Will you be voting for Donald Trump?
As it looks to stand right now, yes.
Okay. Why so?
Well, let's first start off by saying our options are not really the greatest at any ever point in time. But given the only reasonable, RFK's not on all ballots. I think there's 2 states he's still not on. So that kind of eliminates him for me until he is on all ballots. But Trump, I mean, there's just no way around it. He is his own person. He's got some policy that he made that I like. And Biden, to me, everything about him just says that, I mean, he's just a puppet for the Democratic Party. And I don't think that that's a good thing when you're running for president. Now, if he was just a congressman, maybe I'd vote for him. But when you're the president, you got to be able to, tell your party, hey, not right now. And I don't think he has that capacity.
Well, I mean, he has done that on multiple party issues. I mean, particularly when it comes to certain left-wing ideas. I mean, he's challenged those quite a bit, actually. So he definitely does challenge his party more and everything. I would say that Trump now is the Republican Party, and I'd rather have a party I'd rather have a president that is at least willing to hear out his party and at least hear other voices, rather than the party only following one person. Right? Trump is the Republican Party. Everybody follows him. If you don't follow him, you get kicked out immediately. Look at Adam Kissinger. Look at Liz Cheney. The second that you disagree with them, they are gone.
I'm not going to say that you're wrong that he hasn't done that, but a lot of that stuff was more so personal on a few of them. I don't know about all of them, but I also know that the Democratic Party did the same thing, though. They pushed RFK off the ballot, and his family's been Democrats since. I mean, dude, his father was literally JFK, who was the Democratic Party nominee.
His father was RFK.
His uncle was JFK, and his father was RFK, both Democrats. And then he goes up, and he doesn't agree with them on everything, and they kicked him out. I mean, what do you...
Well, that's because he challenged an incumbent president, right? That's a big no-no, no matter who you are. Like, it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or Democrat. You don't challenge party. I mean, like within the party, you don't challenge the incumbent president. That would be like Bernie Sanders trying to challenge a Barack Obama when he was running for his second term, right? That's a big no because that's why they disown him. And plus, he has some fringe beliefs, right? He believes that Lee Harvey Oswald, or not Lee Harvey Oswald, sorry, that Saran didn't act alone or actually in killing his father, and that actually there was a white conspiracy about with the CIA. He's a vaccine skeptic on many things. So there's a lot of issues that he's not in line with it. One, with his own family, but two, with the actual party itself. That's why they don't like him, because he's always been kind of a fringe candidate. Donald Trump was a fringe candidate. He then got a lot of policy proposals that the Republicans liked, and then the Republicans essentially followed behind him all the way. That's why there are no dissenting opinions. Can you name me one mainstream? Well, actually, I can think of one, but he's a very oddity. But can you name me like one mainstream Republican conservative, like someone who's an actual conservative running in a red district or in a purple district, who is vehemently opposed to Trump or has come out against Trump? I can't think of one. I can think of maybe one, and that's it.
Well, I mean, I would have to get on. I don't know everybody by names because there's a lot of people, but I was pretty sure that a few Republicans in Congress had voted against him, and obviously, his vice president doesn't support him anymore.
Well, yeah, but they're out of office now. They lost their elections.
I'm sorry. What was your question then?
Oh no, I'm saying if you were saying how at least Trump is his own man, and that he's not being kowtowed by like the party and everything. I'm saying I'd rather have somebody in office who is listening to other people like that are around him than the people around him listening just to the boss, because that's what worries me, is that Trump to me, based on his history from 2016 to 2020, he's not all there. He doesn't have any policy proposals on his mind. He doesn't like reading. He doesn't like thinking and all that. And so he doesn't rely, therefore, on other people. He just kind of goes off on the whim. I'd rather have a president that is willing to sit down, think about things, hear other inputs, and then make a decision. That's not the current state of the party. The party kowtows to Trump 100%, and I'm saying that's why we called it like a cult, because there is no wrong that the dear leader can do, because I have yet to hear anybody criticize Donald Trump on almost anything. Right? I mean, in the 8 years that Donald Trump has been going forward, I have not heard a major Republican be able to come out and actively criticize Trump, who has not then lost their re-election or had the party infrastructure go against them. So that to me is worrying.
So I mean, he's not in the federal government, but I'm sure you know who the WWE superstar Kane is. I don't know if you're aware of this, but he's a Republican, and he's the mayor of Knox County. And I mean, there's some speculation that he might run for governor or whatever, but I mean, he supports Donald Trump still, like says he's going to vote for him and everything. But like, he's been on Fox News and said, I can't remember exactly what it was that he said he disagreed with him on, but he said that he didn't that he had disagreed with some of the policies and stuff. So I mean, I don't know where the perceptions.
One, he's a local leader, right? Local, Knox County, right? He's not the governor.
But he's Kane, so he's got a big.
Well, he's Kane in WWE, right? And Trump probably would criticize him if Trump cared about that, right? I mean, Trump cares about it in the sense that like he cares about the machismo of it and everything, right? But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, name me a senator, a House member, somebody, a governor, someone in the upper echelons of the government that one can criticize Donald Trump, right? Can do that, and two, not be criticized by the party infrastructure, not have his money taken away from him, not have Donald Trump come after him, not have Donald Trump supporters come after him, and very, very likely lose their election. That to me it's worrying, because you could have Democrats right now criticize Joe Biden. In fact, many are, right? Many right now are saying that he should leave the race. Many have criticized him on Israel. Many have criticized him on many things, and and they end up winning their elections, and the party still supports them. That to me is a much more open, vibrant nature of like a back and forth dialogue, rather than just somebody following the one guy who's like a dear leader type of guy.
Susan Collins, the senator from Maine, and Senator Todd Young from Indiana publicly refused Trump.
So Susan Collins, right? But remember, my qualifier, right, was a conservative. Susan Collins does not describe herself as a conservative. She's a liberal Republican. She's from Maine, and so she's not a conservative. And so she can do it because, one, she's a liberal Republican, and two, she's from Maine. So that's why she is able to bypass that. Now, Todd Young of who? Where is Todd Young
Indiana.
from? Indiana.
Indiana.
So Todd Young, my guess is he's a senator, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So like, what did he criticize him on?
It was just that he publicly declared his that he refused to back Trump.
This election. This election.
Yeah, he when they came and interviewed him. This is what I'm getting from the internet. He said that he publicly, it's the Independent, which was a UK site, but that's one of the ones I could find. It says that Mike Pence is also in that, but he's not in office anymore. It says that they interviewed him, or let me see here, Fox News host.
Oh, also, by the way, Todd Young is not up for re-election, so Todd Young can say that safely, right? Todd Young comes up for re-election in 2026.
I mean, everything always comes back and bites you in the butt later on.
Well, yes, but if Donald Trump's president, I mean, I would argue yes. Okay, so you actually, you named me one senator. Thank you. I didn't know that about Todd Young, and that's good on Todd Young. Oh, it's very staticky. Oh, I apologize. It's probably my fan. How about now? Is it better?
I don't know what.
Oh, they said my mic was staticky. Is it better? I'm waiting for the chat. No?
I think it might be the volume.
Oh, is it the volume or is it the fan? Here, hold on. I have a fan on because there's no air circulation in here, so. How about now? It might be the gain, too. Let me turn. How about now? Better? I turned the gain down. Good now? Good. Better? Okay. I turned the gain down, so that's what I did. So, but how's the volume? Is the volume okay?
I think it's just partly your voice too, the way you sound.
Probably. I don't have a booming voice, so my voice is not going to be like clear or anything. So, okay. So, but one reason I still am trying to understand though is, are you saying that the only reason why what's the main driving factor why you want to vote for Donald Trump?
I think he's the president obviously goes overseas and represents us all the states as a whole, and I think he has a much more strong demeanor about him. I mean, regardless if you like him or not, the America's really based on a lot of perception stuff. I mean, we're a capitalist country. We advertise a lot of things like McDonald's, putting that overseas. We got all these profit wars that are unclassified CIA documents, so it's no longer conspiracy theory to say we overthrew the Iran government. We literally did that. So if we're going to be doing this mass perception thing, you got to have someone who can put up the front, and I don't think Joe Biden's putting up a front. And also, I also want to say that I don't think there's very many senators who oppose. I don't think there's any at all that oppose Biden. And Bernie Sanders, where you're talking about not like the way people just support Trump. Julian Assange, who wrote in her book that the Democrat, when they had the Russian email leaks with the DNC, said that the Clintons had so much financial control over the DNC that they basically rigged the she called it rigged, the DNC chairwoman, Julian Assange, called it, they rigged the election against the primary against Bernie Sanders.
Oh, you're not going to hear me defending the party infrastructure. That's not my point. My point is that Joe Biden at least takes the opinions of other people, and the other people don't just kowtow behind them. He has dissenting opinions in his party and in his cabinet and in his agency. Donald Trump this time around is not going to do that. He has said publicly that he will put in people who agree with him and will do his bidding. His primary target with that will be the AG. That's the point, is that Trump wants to be able to do that. And I'm saying that's a bad thing, is that I don't want somebody who's going to yield a king-like power. I want somebody who is going to listen and make a good decision overall, right? That's my main point.
So I agree with you. But here's the issue that I see in that from the Democratic side is when Joe Biden gets into office, he puts into the bureaucracy, he puts in whoever they tell him to put in. Like, because I said, Joe Biden is, the way I perceive it, he's more of a puppet than anything. And which, not to say back in his day, he had a lot of good stuff that he said and a lot of good stuff that he did. And, and when we age, we deteriorate. It happens. It's biology. And I don't think that he's the same Joe Biden we had in the 70s and 80s, or even 2008. If you go watch a debate from in 2008 to now, it's a huge difference, and 2012. But, they always appoint bureaucrats. And so the party does that. And since, Trump is probably going to pick who he wants to pick and not who the party wants him to pick. But I do know for a fact Joe Biden is definitely picking who the party tells him to pick. And the issue with that is we submitted a bill for qualified immunity to end, right? That got deviated out to a separate Congress that you did not elect. And those are appointed by your elected representatives. So my kind of counter argument to that is that they all do that. It doesn't matter what president you vote for. They're putting in people who agree with them. I mean, Biden, if Biden was in office when a Supreme Court judge was up, he's going to put in a liberal Supreme Court justice, because when
I'm not disagreeing with you on any of that, but that doesn't get back to my main point. My main point, though, is that the people in him and that are surrounding him, not the bureaucrats. A bureaucrat is separate from the cabinet and the agencies. I'm talking about the people who have direct policy control, the people that make decisions, right? In Trump's first term, many of his negative behaviors was stifled because he didn't have yes men in those agencies, right? They were willing to tell him no and to say to him, hey, this is a bad idea, don't do this. Or they were willing to say, I'm not going to follow through with that. Trump has learned that, and he has said, I don't want that to happen again. What I want to do is I want to put people in there who are going to follow every single word I say, no matter what, and they're going to do my bidding. That's the thing that I worry about. I mean, no other Republican has said that they want to do that. No other a Democrat has said that, and Joe Biden especially. Joe Biden definitely has people around him who are willing to tell him no, and who he listens to. That's the biggest difference between these two guys. Is one of them will actually listen to his experts, to his agency people, rather than just make a split decision right on the rim. The whim.
I understand more what you're saying. Okay, so I would first say, obviously Biden also appoints the cabinet based off of what the Democratic Party, who they want him to appoint. But in regards to what is because I've heard you say that along with a few other people, where are y'all getting that he's exactly looking for people who are just going to ignore the law and just say yes to whatever he says?
He himself has said it. That's where I got it from. He has said it multiple times. When he left the White House, he was upset. Like, okay, let me give you like an example. Bill Barr would not follow through with challenging the election. Right? Bill Barr said to his face, and Bill Barr has publicly said this in interviews, said, I told him to his face, the election was not stolen. I will not do anything that goes to prosecute your claims of election fraud. He actively was considering firing Bill Barr and putting somebody in those final days to get that done. But luckily it didn't happen. But he was considering it. And now he's saying, I want an AG, right, who will prosecute people like the Bidens. I want an AG who will go after my opponents. I want an AG who's going to do the things that I say. He has publicly said, I want an AG like RFK, right? Not RFK Jr., RFK, because he wants somebody who's going to be like RFK was to JFK. Right? Someone who's going to do the president's bidding and protect him like he's a family member. And I'm saying that is a bad thing. I mean, if RFK, for example, did do anything untoward with JFK and actually went outside the law, that's a bad thing. That's a no-no. And so I don't want him to put in somebody who's a sycophant, who's going to use the Justice Department and weaponize it to go after people who he merely disagrees with, to further his conspiracies about the election and all these different things. I'm saying that is what worries me.
Okay, so what about because the Bill Barr thing, everything, like when I was really into that, the U.S. attorney, was it William McSwain? He had said that Barr instructed him not to pursue certain investigations within the, I guess, within the context of the election fraud claims. But also to that, Bill Barr denies that he ever told William McSwain that, and that he never gave a directive to stand down. But
well, I'm not even considering those. I'm just considering what he himself has said. Right? He himself has said many times, I don't think the election was stolen. I would not. I've told Donald Trump to his face. Right? To his face, I said the election is not stolen. I don't see any evidence of it, and I'm not going to. And I'm pretty sure this came out during the a second impeachment inquiry, right, where they looked at what Bill Barr had done, and all the evidence came out about that, and that in November and December of 2020, Trump was pressuring Bill Barr to do something, and Bill Barr's like, I don't see any evidence here. I can't do anything. I won't do anything. And Trump was really upset about that. He was really pissed about that. That's my point. Bill Barr was willing to say no. Right, and Trump got all pissed at it and got all mad, and that led to more and more things. But my main point is that this time around, Trump is likely to put in a AG or try to put in an AG who's going to just do what he says, because that's what he says he wants. He wants somebody who's going to do exactly what he says. He's going to challenge him. He's going to say no to him. He's going to make the Justice Department just a new wing of the West Wing, which is bad because the Justice Department is supposed to be completely detached from the presidency itself.
see, I mean, dude, personally, I just see all of this as another scare tactic for this whole party stuff, because here's the thing. If there is election fraud, okay, somebody has to investigate it. And what they said was that they did not, Bill Barr said that they didn't find evidence of mass fraud. Okay, I mean, there is fraud out there. People get arrested for, voting for other people and all kinds of stuff like that. And this isn't the first time this has happened. And I just said it the other day. The Democratic Party had two people who committed election fraud. I'm going to relook up their name. But this isn't the first incidence of
Hold on. Yes,
stealing an election kind of thing.
It was litigated, right? And the courts have said how this is supposed to happen, right? A candidate challenges the election results in court. The court then looks through all of it and makes a determination, and then you go down the list. But that's not the question. The question is, should the president be able to use his attorney general in furtherance of his own claims, right? That's the claim. Not that he can't challenge it. I'm totally okay with him being able to challenge it. I'm saying, should he be able to use all of the machinations of the federal government to illegally do that, right? Because what he wanted Bill Barr to do wasn't just to like go in and like look at it. He wanted Bill Barr to bring cases and to challenge it. When Bill Barr said, "No, I have no evidence for that."
Yeah, I'm saying that I get what you're saying. Like, I understand all of that. But I made a claim, so I want to go ahead and back it up. Lyndon B. Johnson, 1948, Texas Senate race. They were rigging. 2002 New Hampshire Senate race. They did a phone jamming scandal to help. I don't know if that was for the Democratic or Republican. That was Republicans. Operation Eagle Eye was another one.
Yeah, did any of those have the?
These people were convicted.
I know. I'm not saying fraud doesn't happen. I'm saying fraud did not happen as Donald Trump described it. That's the point, right? And Donald Trump believes it happened, and Bill Barr said, no, there's no evidence of this mass fraud, right? And so therefore, Heather, thank you for the $10. Thank you, Heather, on Venmo. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate you. And he would, because let me give you this hypothetical, right? Let's say it's 2020 and instead of Bill Barr, it's somebody else in there who is a total sycophant for Donald Trump, okay? And they say, well, I have no evidence that there was mass election fraud, but Donald Trump wants me to prosecute this case, right? He wants me to go after these people. He wants me to do something about it. I have no evidence for it, right? I'm not looking into it. I am doing a case. And he says, well, Donald Trump tells me to. I'm going to go ahead and do it. I'm going to use the power of the Justice Department to go after this that I know has no evidence behind it. That's the scary part, right? It's more so the ability to use the Justice Department to weaponize it in such a way that he can go after people who he disagrees with. Because when he wins, or if he wins, right, he's not going to use it to challenge the election. He's going to use the Justice Department to go after those who he says has wronged him. He has already said, right, that he wants vengeance on people. And so the way you do that is you instruct your attorney general to use the Justice Department to go after people, which I think is very bad. I don't think that's a good thing.
It's not, but what do you call it, though, when the Justice Department has allegations in front of them, like, for instance, where I said the DNC one, and they don't go and investigate those things? I feel like we're already living in a weaponized Justice Department. I definitely know we live one on a local level, because they have so much discretion, qualified immunity, sovereign immunity. They could literally watch you get unalived in the street and just say, we're not going to prosecute.
Well, the Justice Department choosing not to prosecute or choosing not to go after a case at the discretion of the Attorney General, that's a different thing than the Attorney General taking direct commands from the President to then go after somebody. Those are two different things, right? If the Attorney General said, I do not want to go after a DNC because of X, Y, and Z, that's its own separate case, right? That's its own separate thing. But if the Attorney General, if Joe Biden said to Merrick Garland, I want you to go after these specific people because they have wronged me in the past. I want you to prosecute them under federal law. And Merrick Garland said, okay, sure, I'll do that. That to me would be a grave injustice of the justice system. That would be like a king or like a dictator saying, "Do my bidding," right? And I have knowledge, or I have at least comfort in the fact that I know that Merrick Garland and Joe Biden, but Merrick Garland would not do that. He would rather step down and quit rather than go through with that order.
You still, even if he still decides to prosecute, you still have to prove the crime, and that's going to go in front of a jury. And now take for granted, you still have to pay a heavy cost for that, because I've been there, done that. But kind of where I'm coming from with it is, if I can't trust the Department of Justice on all levels to pursue criminals or allegations of criminal activity, I'm supposed to be like, I'm supposed to fear it for the way you're describing it with Trump. It's like, how can you fault me for any vote?
I don't fault you. I don't fault you for not trusting. I don't fault you for not trusting the a system as it has been used in the past and is being used currently, right? What I'm saying is, never before, or we have no evidence that the last time I think this happened was probably Nixon, but we have no evidence, right, that presidents after Nixon tried to use the Justice Department to go after their political opponents, and except for, like in the case of Nixon, but for a few really, really moral people who came forward and said, this is what he's doing, we never would have found out about it, right? I mean, if it wasn't for, who was Deep Throat? I forget his name. The guy who was Deep Throat. If it wasn't for him giving the information to a Bob Woodward, and everything, we would never have known what happened at Watergate, right? We never would have known these things. Just imagine if in all these agencies there's not these people that have this independence and don't have this loyalty, but instead you have loyalists who will never come out and say these bad things are happening behind doors, right? Because remember, this is also in tie with like Project 2025 and anything, right? Which Trump has signed on to. The idea that the entire bureaucracy should be changed, mass firings of all the bureaucrats, and instead to just put in people that believe in a single core message and, probably above all, support Donald Trump. So yes, I am trying to I guess you can say I'm trying to scare you, but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to warn you that these are bad things, that this is a bad thing that will happen, because not since Nixon, as far as we can tell, have we ever seen such weaponization of the various departments of the government. And Trump has said all of this in public. This is not like somebody, behind the microphone, saying it in the backroom deals. Trump is saying all of this publicly. He is making his plans known. And as you said, he's his own man, right? He follows through with what he says. And so I should believe him when he says that he wants to go after those who he perceives had done him wrong. He wants his own RFK as the AG and all that. And so I'm going to believe him when he says that.
So what do you? Okay, so I'll first say that I think that both parties weaponize the Department of Justice and things around that. And will Trump do that? Probably against his enemies. However, why is it? Because this is where it starts getting gray area for me, and why I don't really think it matters if you voted for Biden or Trump. And because they're both going to, do this power grab thing, is when Bill Clinton got impeached, and which the Senate rejected his impeachment, and it was basically cleared of it. The White House is a public area, kind of. It's government property. I know presidents can live there. I don't know if Bill Clinton lived there. But for you to have relations like he did in the Oval Office, I'm just a paralegal, but I'm pretty sure that you could find some kind of criminal code to charge him with for doing that. And also for him paying off the girl because he was with two women. It wasn't just one. Everybody knows the secretary, but there was another one that he was with. Forget what her name was. And he had all of that stuff going on. Never caught a criminal charge from.
Well,
and
hold on.
The Supreme Court just ruled today.
Are those high crimes and misdemeanors?
That would probably, depending on, because it's the White House, that could possibly be a federal crime.
Well, no, not a crime. Okay. Well, one, the Constitution doesn't tell us what a high crime and misdemeanor is, so we have to use our own Well,
it's whatever whatever they make the.
Yeah, you're right. It is. Well, it's not whatever it is. It's whatever the House says it is, and then, but that could be, but they have to have certain boundaries. They can't say that, if Bill Clinton, I don't know, took a dollar bribe or something, if that's like a high crime misdemeanor. You know what I mean? Like it has to be within like, you know, that whole framework. That's not the point. The point that what I'm saying is this, is that what Bill Clinton did, we already had the impeachment, right? He was impeached. He was found not guilty. So that's already been ruled on, that no, it was not a high crime misdemeanor. It was already taken care of, right? But morally, I would say yes, he was wrong, right? He cheated on his wife. He had a power relation dynamic that was immoral. I would not have voted for a Bill Clinton on those issues. Right, because I apply that same logic that I applied to Donald Trump to Bill Clinton. Now I was only like, I would have been what, 96. I was only like 4 years old, so I couldn't vote anyway. But you know, it still matters to a degree that and the court just today, as you mentioned, already ruled today that in an official act. Now, what Bill Clinton did was unofficial. You know, having sex with your intern is an unofficial act. But they did say that you cannot, or you don't necessarily have to use a generally criminal law or a general criminal law to then go forward. And so the actual court today actually said it doesn't actually have to be a crime, right? Like that's not the threshold, right? Because and so that's the point is and that's one area that I think the court was actually wrong on. Is I don't think it's a good thing to say that, well, you know, like a crime has to be committed here or something like that, you know. And plus, with the evidence and the motive thing, I think they made the right decision on like half of it, and the other half that kind of went like a little bit too far on, because this applies also to Democratic presidents, like Joe Biden, like any future Democrat president. So you don't want to like celebrate too early, and this is what I'm telling all my conservative friends out there: don't celebrate too early, because anything that Donald Trump can do, now a Joe Biden can do it, right? So, and not be prosecuted.
Yeah. So the with the Bill Clinton thing, her name was shoot, I just had it. It wasn't Monica Lewinsky. It was I just had her name pulled up. Now it's not telling me her name. I think Lewinsky, Linda Tapp. No, Tripp, or I think.
Yeah, Tripp. I think it was Linda. Yeah.
No, so Paula. No, sorry. This actually says plural, other women. But Paula Jones brought legal action against Bill Clinton, and she brought a harassment lawsuit against him. Now, harassment is a crime.
Linda Tripp was her name.
But that wasn't the one. That wasn't the one that I was talking about. I was going to talk about Paula Jones. She's one of the ones who did file the civil suit against him, and what actually Bill Clinton did not face felony charges or arrests as a result of the impeachment. Instead, he reached an agreement to avoid prosecution by accepting a 5-year suspension on his Arkansas law license and a $25,000 fine. So
this was was this when he was governor?
Doesn't say.
What year was it?
Let me try to scroll down here. Let me see here. 19. No, this should be when he's president. This one should be
1997.
This was during the presidency on
96 and. Yeah, it said the case was later settled. So it settled out of court because it was a civil lawsuit. It was a civil lawsuit.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is he got acquitted. So he got acquitted from the. So he got. I don't know if these are. I don't know if they charged him. That's what I'm trying to figure out here. Because what I was going to say is that I find it odd that Bill Clinton commits crimes, they don't arrest him, but Donald Trump had that thing with Hillary where he said,
well, they couldn't arrest him when he was president. Same thing with Donald Trump, because when you're president, you're immune from a prosecution.
I thought that Supreme Court decision today said otherwise.
No. You're immune from prosecution. The Justice Department has an official memo saying that while somebody's president, you cannot be charged for anything. Right, while you're president. The Supreme Court today talked about what it is they can be charged for.
I haven't read the whole thing, so I'll take your word for it for now. But this was during 2001, so this was after he was already out of office.
Well, hold on. I'm looking at it right here. Clinton v. Jones reached the Supreme Court in 1997, and it was settled out of court in 1998.
It's telling me 2000. It says after his acquittal, Clinton reached an agreement to avoid prosecution on January 19th, 2001, just before leaving office. Clinton accepted a deal with the independent counsel Robert Ray. This agreement involved Clinton admitting that he had made false statements under oath about his relationship with Lewinsky, leading to a 5-year suspension.
Wait, with Lewinsky, not with Jones?
No, this one was. So this is the one that's on his. Okay, so Paula Jones had a civil suit.
Yes,
and then.
Oh, so you're talking about Monica Lewinsky.
Yeah, so Monica Lewinsky is the one he took the deal and lost his Arkansas license for 5 years and had to pay $25,000.
Yeah, because it was an unofficial act.
And then what's her? And then the Paula Jones, she filed a civil suit for sexual harassment.
Yes.
So
and we already have a Supreme Court case that said that. Now I don't know if this case, if that case was overruled by Trump v. United States. I don't think so, because when I read through it, I didn't see that it said this case is like overruled or anything. But there was in Clinton v. Jones was the precedent that. Okay, yeah, it's the president. That's the precedent that a president does not have immunity from civil law litigation for acts done before taking office and unrelated to the office. So that's probably why they were able to civilly sue him. It's because it happened prior to. I think it happened prior to he became president, like before he became president.
Regardless of when it happened, he's still subjugated to it. Period. Like, you can't, just because you're president doesn't mean you can sexually harass people.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you're making a good argument for Bill Clinton being very not very moral, right? So, I agree with you. Like. Yeah.
So where I'm going with all of this is, if I just really feel like they went very, very lightly on him, and I think the reason why they go heavy on Trump is because he made that statement, which now he claims he didn't make. Which is what I've now been hearing. I've been trying to look for the video, but your people that you debate with have been saying that he backs out now, that he never made the statement to Hillary during their debates about the tax code, like, if you have a problem with the tax code, why haven't you changed it? He stepped out of line when he said that. And like I told you, America does a lot of pushing up, a lot of smoke and mirrors, and they write a lot of these laws with a lot of ambiguity to it. They write a lot of tax codes with a lot of ambiguity to it, and Eddie called them out on it. And I think that that's more so of the issue as anything, because like I said, they'll prosecute someone when it's either gone too far, like it did with Hunter Biden, because they for a long time had Senate hearings where people were covering for him. FBI wasn't giving the laptop over. I mean, all kinds of stuff like that. And it boiled over to a point that they could no longer hide it. So, I just don't see how Joe Biden is a light at the end of the tunnel when they're
Joe Biden is not the light at the end of the tunnel. That's the whole point, right? I'm not pro Joe Biden. That's what people get kind of mixed up on. I'm not pro Joe Biden. I am anti Donald Trump because I disagree with Trump on policy. I disagree with him on his morality, on how he acts, on his behavior. I think he is a negative overall. Sure, there are some things that he did while in office that were good and everything, right? I'm not agreeing that like all presidents have some good policies. I'm saying that the things that he wants to do, the things that he said that he will do, and the way he talks, just who he is as a person, I cannot vote for somebody like that. That's my point, right? Is that I'm not out here saying rah rah Joe Biden. I'm saying boo Donald Trump, and I'm voting against him, not really for him. And to me, that's very important because I see Donald Trump as a threat to the United States, to our way of governing. He is very anti-democratic. I mean, like small d democratic. He loves kind of that playing with authoritarian strongman language. He likes. I think he would love to be able to be in the place of someone like Vladimir Putin or Xi Jinping, where they have absolute like authority to do stuff. I think that's what he likes, and just the fact that he has no policy proposals really. Like all his proposals, really. I mean, like at that debate, did we really learn anything about what he wanted to do? Like, no, we didn't. All we heard was doom, doom, doom. The United States suck. We need to get back to Trump. You know, rah, rah, rah. I heard nothing about policy proposals. When they asked him point blank, what would you do to solve the opioid crisis? He did not answer the question. They asked him 3 times. And instead, he talked about other things. Right? Now, I don't know. Now, I'm not affected by the opioid crisis for me particularly, but there are millions of Americans who are, and he flat out rejected to answer the question. Why? Because he has no policy on it. He has no policy. Right?
Okay, so, I mean, there's a lot of questions that Joe Biden didn't answer as well because they were both going bickering back at each other and then talking about golf. But, you know, no, he didn't answer the question. And, you know, I was going to go down this route. Was really my next point is the like stuff like the Roe v. Wade. And I don't, me personally, I don't see why you would want the federal government to deal with an can't even say the word, opioid crisis, because to me, that's a state issue. I don't think that that's ever going to be solved by the federal government.
No. It's not a state issue because the crisis crosses boundaries, state boundaries, right? What happens in Ohio and West Virginia and Kentucky and Illinois, right? It crosses all boundaries. Why should the people of Ohio be deprived of help when, say, the government of Wisconsin will be doing something? Right? That's the whole point. That's why this is a federal issue. Back to like the Roe v. Wade question, right? The reason why that's a federal issue is because women in Texas deserve the same rights as the women in Maine and in Maryland and in Illinois, right? That's the whole point. There is nothing different about the women in these conservative states that is different from the women in these liberal states. That's why you need federal protections, which is one of the reasons why I think Donald Trump says all the time, I don't want to do any abortion ban. I don't want to do that. And I call bullshit on that because he's going to follow what the Congress does. If the House and the Senate give him a ban on abortion, he's going to sign it. He's not going to veto it. He's not stupid to veto it. Right? He's going to sign it, and so he's making it already a federal issue. They can already say because look at the way that the Republicans are talking about it. They already moved off of the fact that it's a state issue. At first it was a state issue. Now they're saying, well, the federal government has to get involved because now we got all these patchwork of stuff and we got to make it like a federal issue because life should be protected. That was not their argument for decades and decades. Now it is their argument.
The overturn what the overturn of the Roe v. Wade did, obviously it sent the decision back to the states. However, governors like Bill Lee, for instance, in Tennessee, which I absolutely despise as a Tennessean, tried to pass a bill where it wanted a no exception abortion ban. The courts of Tennessee, the Supreme Court of Tennessee, told him that was unconstitutional, and I don't think that in the court documents for the overturn of Roe v. Wade said that an all-out ban was constitutional. But
we don't know because they didn't say anything on it. That's the point. They didn't say anything on it. They said we will return to the states, but they said nothing about whether or not the actual Congress could pass. Which is why I think what would happen immediately is if no matter who passed a bill, whether that be Democrats passing a Roe v. Wade codification, or if Republicans passed a outright ban, I think it would go back up to the courts, and I think the court, given how politicized it is right now, I think the courts would say, well, I mean, I don't want to be cynical, but I will be for a second. I think the current composition of the courts tell us that if the Republicans pass a ban and it gets to the Supreme Court, a current court is more likely to say that that is constitutional. And if Democrats do it and pass a pro-choice bill and it gets to the court, they were saying no, that's not constitutional. Because I don't think the court right now at all is neutral or anything. I think they are entirely political. Hey, Steph, thank you for the sub. Thank you so much. I think they are very much political, and I think that especially Thomas and Alito and Gorsuch, I think they would definitely vote, say, depending on who it is. And so I'm saying that I think both sides have a tough time arguing for it being federal, right, because of the various interplay. But I would rather have somebody in the office who's going to make sure that a ban doesn't happen versus someone who is going to make it much more likely that does happen. And I fully expect that if Trump got in, he would sign a ban that would ban abortion. I have no doubt in my mind about that.
I mean, I'm not going to say you're wrong, but I just don't think that it would go all the way through, even if he did. But the thing about returning stuff to the states, though, at which a lot of Republicans push for, it's, to me, if a lot of times people like in California and New York and stuff, they don't like a lot of things that go on in the South. Okay. It's always been like that. And people in the South don't like what people in the North do. The whole premise of our country was based on local governments and state governments and people power. We're a constitutional republic. And in that definition, it literally starts off with the people hold the ultimate, or the people hold the supreme power. So I don't think it's ever gonna work when you have the federal government dictating what the law is for every single state. I'm not saying that it's not wrong for the stuff that goes on in Texas with abortion and people having to go to other states and do that. But one thing that I know a state can't do is stop you from going to another state.
Well, they are trying to do that. I don't know which state it was, but there was a state that wanted to criminalize the movement to go and get out an abortion. Now, that would obviously be challenged. Obviously, it's the Interstate Trade Commerce Act will prevent them from being able to do that.
I'm not saying that they won't be challenged. I'm saying that they do want to do it, though, right? They do want to do it, and I think that if it got to the courts again, I'm saying I am so cynical on this court that I don't know what would happen. Even though Kavanaugh said in Dobbs that the right to interstate travel is won't be infringed and all that stuff, I don't trust it. I just don't trust it. And I am not a states' rights type of person, right? I'm not the type of person that's going to say that what happens in one state is good and that we should allow this kind of patchwork stuff. Even though I'm a believer in federalism, I'm not somebody, because I think there are clear issues that need federal protection: civil rights, bodily rights, things like that, where the federal government has to get involved in. And I am not going to sound like some kind of Confederate or anything here, where I'm going to be like rah rah rah,
states' rights, because I think states' rights get used up far too much. Think of the hat. Given the fact that the people in Texas and Mississippi are no different than the people in New York and California. They need the same. Thank you so much for the money gun and the hat. They need the same things. They have the same issues, right? I'm not saying they, like, abolish all the states' rights thing. I'm saying there's a reason why we need all these things to be federal, and that's why I vote mainly Democratic. It's because federal things apply to everyone, and I'm big on providing liberty and providing protection to everyone, not to have each state just determine whatever the hell they want. And thank you for all the gifts, everybody. Thank you so much.
Well, the issue comes in with that is if you start trying to now dictate what another state does and they don't agree with you, we ended up in a civil war because of that.
Right, and I think the Civil War should have been fought because it was over an issue of such profound moral reasons that could, I mean, I really, right. And what was one of the reasons? Thank you for the hat. Thank you so much. Okay.
Slavery was the big reason.
Yeah, slavery was the reason. But let's think about it. What did they try to do prior to the Civil War, prior to the states succeeding, and prior to the first shots on Fort Sumter? What did they try to do, right? For decades, they tried to pass the ball down by giving the states what they wanted. Thank you, okay, right? They passed various compromises. They allowed Missouri to have their own state, and they allowed Kansas to have their own thing. They allowed Texas to have their own thing. They tried to preserve states' rights again and again and again, when they should have, from when the founding fathers frankly should have, but they should have said federally, no, we were going to take an issue on this. But that's not what they did. All the courts did it. All the politicians did it. Right. That's one of the reasons why Andrew Johnson, one of the worst rated president ever is Buchanan, I think, because he did nothing to prevent the Civil War going forward. Nothing. Right? He was a staunch supporter of states' rights. He allowed all these different things, and that's the problem. That's why Buchanan is rated so low, because he directly preceded Abraham Lincoln, and he did nothing to prevent that. People from John Adams up to Lincoln should have made it a federal issue, because then we wouldn't have had Bleeding Kansas and the Missouri Compromise and Texas being divided like in such a way. All those issues would have been sidesteps if the federal government had got involved sooner. But so actually, the Civil War is a prime example of the federal government needing to get involved on these issues, because if you don't, then it just festers and it boils until boom, when you have one person say, now I'm going to do something about it, and they all leave.
So you think that if they had done that earlier, that was just still going to go over smoothly if they had done it earlier?
Oh, I think yes. I think, well, yes, they should have done it at the founding of the country, but the founding fathers were too afraid to do it because the states that had the most political power, Virginia and all them, were slave-owning states, and they were scared to death to challenge that. But I think even 10 years, they should have put in the Constitution. They should have put in a 10-year or a 20-year timetable saying upon the ratification of this document, in 20 years' time, slavery will be outlawed in the United States. But they didn't do that.
So I'm not trying to argue that we should have slavery. So let me go ahead and first clarify that. But what I'm saying is this is one of the things one of the nuances of being a leader. You obviously want justification. Obviously, I don't want to see a woman, I don't want to see a 14-year-old girl be scared out of her mind to have a baby that she had from some random guy or made a mistake or whatever the case may be. However, you got to understand that a lot of people think that life starts as soon as you're impregnated, basically. And my grandfather is one of those. And he tells his story when he preaches at church that he came from a R-type situation, and that his mother chose to carry him through even though he never knew his father. And actually his mother left him, and he was raised by his uncle, and he had polio too, because this was the 50s, and so now he's like in a wheelchair. But people like that, they have a very good reason to feel the way they feel. And so not everybody's going to agree with what you say. So when you have someone who doesn't live around us, like I have trouble enough advocating. I'm more liberal probably than I am conservative, especially in a Tennessee standard. And even the stuff I say really triggers people around here, like extremely. So I could only imagine if, like, say somebody like Harry or Parker came to Tennessee, it would not be a good day for them. I recommend they never come here. But you gotta allow states' rights, because the option, I don't think that the solution is in the federal government saying, okay, hey, go and do this. I think the solution is states' rights. And if something needs to change in a state, political leaders need to lobby into those states. I mean, the Democratic Party could allocate money to Tennessee and help Tennessee get some more Democrats in office, but they don't. There's what is it called when you philanthropy? They could be people could be investing in philanthropy, and you need to do that with the people that live in those states. Just having the federal government say, no, we're not going to do this anymore. You're going to do this and you're going to do that. And these ideas are coming from people that are hundreds and hundreds of miles away. We fight wars on that. So if you're going to be a good president...
We already do that, though. On a multitude of issues, we already do that. The federal government already regulates and decides what the law is on a multitude of issues that many people hundreds and thousands of miles away in Wyoming and Montana and Oregon and New Mexico already don't like, right? We already do that. I don't understand why abortion should be any different, right? I don't understand why that should be any different. Yes, just because your grandfather thinks that life begins at the moment, of the sperm meeting the egg, and the fact that he's a product of grape, okay, that's his own thing, right? But the point is, his mother had the choice, right? She chose. That's what you said. She chose to have him. That's the point, right? You tiptoed right into the point. Is that she had the choice to be able to have him and everything. That's what we want. We want choice. I don't. If a grape victim wants to have their child, I'm not going to stop them from having their child. In fact, I want to provide them maximum government support so that they could actually go forward, and that child and the mother will be able to have a good life, right? I'm all for that. But the whole point is that the person who is raped should have the choice to terminate, given that a girl that was raped in New Mexico is the same as a girl that was raped in New York. Why should a girl in Texas or in Tennessee or in Utah, sorry, God, that fucking word, Utah, why should they be denied that need when a girl in New York and California and Maryland get it?
Because you have people who will go up in arms about it because they believe that strongly in it.
There are people who literally went up in arms, who literally took up arms when we said that slavery should be abolished.
Yes. And
I submit to you today that was the right decision. That even though people took up arms and we fought the bloodiest war ever, that Lincoln getting elected and that the radical Republicans' decision to get rid of slavery was still the right decision, even though somebody literally took up arms, right?
You're gonna send other people to fight that battle. That's where I'm talking about the nuances of having a leader and all of this stuff.
What do you mean to fight that battle? Like what do you mean?
If the federal government today made some kind of action on abortion that just uproared or did some kind of federal action that uproared like you've never seen before since the Civil War, and They're up in arms about it. Regardless of if they're right or wrong, that puts us as a whole country on a very strain. And you're advocating for this stuff, but also, I'm not meaning to personally judge you, but I don't think that you're going to be willing, if you pass these laws and people go up in arms about it, I don't think you're going to be the one going on the front lines.
Well, neither was Lincoln. Neither was Lincoln.
Well, it wasn't. And that's what I'm saying. These people are making decisions. They're having to make these decisions and putting that into factor. Obviously, I don't want to see women, having to do these hardships of, what we're talking about, because I'm pro-choice.
But that's the outcome of what you're saying, though. You're saying that it should be a states' rights thing. Yes. And that's the outcome of what you're saying, though.
Yeah, because it would be easier to fix it as a state's issue.
It's not easier. Do you think? No. Is there? Okay. In your mind, is there ever a scenario that in the state of Utah that abortion will be allowed?
I'm sorry. Repeat that question.
Is there any scenario that in the state of Utah where abortion is banned completely? They just had a Supreme Court case on this, right? It's banned completely, even in the cases where a mother's life is in danger. Okay, they banned it completely, except for one thing: when a mother is about to die. Okay, that's the only circumstance.
Watch that word, by the way.
What? Oh, okay. About to be unalived. Can you give me any reason why the state of Utah, that the people in power will seek to overturn that, given the demographics of it, given the whole political nature of it? Why should the women in Utah be deprived of that when the people in all the surrounding states get that right? Why is that? Which is why I'm arguing that the women in Utah are no different than the women in California or in Nevada or in Montana. They deserve the exact same rights that they have. And I'm not talking about a small right. This is a fundamental right. It's a right about your body. It's a right about how you control it, what you can do to it. That's the main point.
So I kind of have to go on a tail to answer that question.
Oh, and by the way, I'll let you say the last word, and then I am going to bring something up, bring somebody else up, because we've been talking for like an hour or so.
Yeah. Well, to quickly answer it, had slavery stayed with like the state's issue, over time, we would have had industrialization approach the South. People would have stopped with the plantation. They would have made things. And now, take for granted, I don't know how well they took care of slaves back then, but I do know in order for a human to operate, you have to feed them. Even if you're not feeding them a lot, you still have to feed them something and, allocate resources to them. So over time, had there never been a federal act to end slavery, over time, I personally believe that slavery would have came to an end of its own accord when we start creating, like, for instance, now we have, like, robots doing a lot of jobs in factories and stuff. And so I think with that same kind of logic, that over time, as we become more educated and everything, that these issues, people will start to more understand them on a mass level, and you'll get judges and such that get into office who say, okay, yeah, no, this isn't right. Because for me, for instance, I live in Tennessee and I'm studying to become a lawyer. And if I ever become a judge and if I was ever to be lucky enough to sit on the Supreme Court of Tennessee, as a Tennessean, I would say, and as kind of a conservative Tennessean, I'm kind of like in the middle, I would say that no, it's not like Bill Lee's no exception abortion ban. I would say no to that's unconstitutional. And Utah is the same thing. They have the people who are Supreme Court justices in Utah right now are people from the freaking 1960s. And that generation will eventually be gone. And when they're gone, you'll have, the people of our generation who are more well-versed on these things, who are also in these conservative states, and they'll start solving those issues. And
Well, hold on. That's a terrible argument. You want to know why? It's because you're saying that I should wait. Okay, I'm gonna frame this in like me. Okay, I'm a millennial. Okay, so I'm gonna attack two things first. Okay, so one, I'm a millennial. Why the hell am I gonna wait for the boomers to die or to go to the grave? Why the hell am I waiting for that? Because it's going to be decades, right? Why am I going to wait while they cause chaos? Why am I going to wait? No, you're asking me to wait I'm getting rattled up because I want you to seriously think about the implications of what you just said. You're saying I should let generations of girls and women suffer just to allow the bad people to like go to the grave? No, that's not how this works. Nancy Pelosi is fucking 85 years old, I think, and she's still in the fucking Congress, right? She's still talking. She still wants power. Mitch McConnell is a fucking zombie. I mean, he's a turtle zombie, and he still is the leader of the Senate. Well, I mean, not now, but but he was.
Yeah,
right?
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and by the way, yeah, I put Chill Live on here. I don't know why I put that. Sorry, I just haphazardly. But that's the point. Yeah, and so Biden too, Donald Trump, all these old fuckers, right? They are not relinquishing power. Chuck Grassley, I think, is he still in the Senate? He's like 90.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not waiting. I'm sorry, but like I'm not going to take that advice from you because I'll be waiting a long ass time, and women and girls and people of color, minorities, are going to suffer. I'm not going to suffer because I'm a white male. Like, I mean, I have all the privilege here, right? But like the people that need it the most are going to suffer, and I'm not going to stand by and just wait. And by the way, we cannot assume that slavery was just going to like peter out or something. Yeah, exactly, Parker. I'd be Biden's age by then with the stutter and everything. So I mean, look. By the way, on the slavery point, right? Slavery was not petering out, right? The South was as slave owning as all get out in 1861.
But that's what happened in some of the northern states.
Yes, but it would have led to civil war, like eventually. Do you think Virginia and North Carolina and Georgia would have been like, oh, Maryland is really becoming, this anti-slavery, we better change our game? No, they would have dug down because it was so tied to their economy that they would have fought over it, which they did. Which is why that just proved my point that they should have earlier put a nail in the coffin of it and said it's going to be illegal and slavery is going to be outlawed on this year at this date, and there's no if and but, and they should have put it in the Constitution. They should have put that there so that we wouldn't have to fucking worry about it. But instead, that's not what happened.
And my thing is that either way you did it, there was going to be a lot of suffering. As you said, it led to one of the bloodiest wars that we had.
Yes, they're going to be suffering, but I'm trying to minimize suffering as much as I can. And I'm saying on the abortion issue, who is suffering right now? Girls and women, because they do not have access in these conservative states. They do not have access to this important healthcare need. And by the way, in many of these states, right, rape victims do not have great protections. Police don't listen to them, right? 2 and 3, the schools are terrible, so that they're not getting proper sex education. They're not learning from their parents how to have a healthy sex life, right? And so you're going to have high teen pregnancies. You're going to have these babies born out of wedlock, be born into families that don't want them, didn't want them, be born into poverty. Who here is actually causing harm? Oh, and by the way, while you're doing that whole culture, thank you, Hex, I appreciate it. While you're doing that whole culture, you're passing policies that are anti-family, right? The Republican Party has consistently passed policies that do not promote the family, do not allow people to actually have kids. Instead, it makes it harder to have kids. Name me one Republican that is trying to promote a guaranteed child care policy or a guaranteed paternal and maternal leave policy. I don't see them.
Well, Trump did. Trump passed, when he was in office, he passed a federal act that gave federal employees 12-week maternal leave.
Oh, so federal employees, but like fuck everybody else, right?
Well, he can't make the states do that because that's
They can. It's called Congress passing a law.
The federal government cannot tell every single state you have to give your state employees 12 weeks.
No, they can say via Congress. They can say via Congress. All United States citizens are guaranteed this many months of parental and maternal leave. It is a guarantee under federal law, meaning all people would get that guarantee.
No, what you're not understanding is so California has more money than Tennessee.
Okay.
All right. We don't have the same economies. So to say to Tennessee, you have to pay all of your state employees this amount of money, or this, we'll say even call it a percentage, and then tell California that they have
Make
to
the
give,
company pay for it. No, I'm not talking about state employees. I'm talking about private individuals, but also state. Look, make it like a federal thing. Make it a federal thing then. Make the federal government pay for it. Right? Most people are not employed by the state governments. Most people are employed within the private sector. The private sector should have to pay their employees to have a certain level and a certain minimum of months that they can go out on a maternal leave. I work at one of the richest areas in the country. I work at a university that is well known. They have a lot of money. They are very well known. If I were to have a child, I only get 3 months. 3 months of paid leave. Anything after that is unpaid. 3 months. Over in Europe, it's like up to a year.
So what do you do when they, because we live in a capitalist society, a very heavy one at that. What are you going to do when you pass certain legislation to make capitalists do that, and then they turn around and try to get their money back?
That's always the retort, but there's no evidence that they actually do that. Look at Canada. Look at the Europeans. They are also capitalist economies. Do they have a spike in the prices when they did this? They've had this for decades. Nobody has had this problem happen. See, whenever we talk about putting on limitations on private corporations to do the bare fucking minimum, the retort to it always is, well, they're going to raise prices, but they never have done it. We have done it. They have not done it.
Price raises since we've had bigger price raises than ever before since 2020.
That's not due to policy. That's not due to the Congress passing new laws that give new things.
We're not talking about policy. We're talking about company owners.
No, I'm talking about policy. I'm saying since 2020 there has been no congressional act that has mandated companies pay or give more benefits to their employees. But prices have still gone up due to a whole host of facts outside of Joe Biden or the Congress. But still, that fundamental thing still is there, that prices have gone up, even though employee benefits and their power of their pay is not going forward as much. I'm saying we have no good evidence that these major corporations will just jack up prices simply because they have to provide more benefits to their employees. I don't see any evidence of that.
So we actually have evidence. So when we started the fiat currency, though, and had the 401k, that wasn't doing anything for people, and they did back end stuff to get their money back while matching 401ks. And when you got your 401k, it wasn't hardly anything, and that was a government policy that we placed in. And the 401k, as you know, is basically useless these days. And so you already know that if you raise minimum wage, that guess what they do? They raise the price of your burger, because that's just we don't live in a good world. There are evil people out there.
Well, okay, I don't want to go too far on this because
yeah, I know.
I want other people to come up, so I'll just end it at that. Thank you for coming up, DC or DJ, and I hope you have a good day. Okay.
You too.
Okay. Bye-bye. Okay, everybody, I have a little bit longer. I'm going to be on for about another 45 minutes or so. Let's try to get this number up here up to 100K by the time I leave. Thank you all for everybody that has gifted. My Venmo and Cash App are in the bio if you want to and can donate, I would greatly appreciate it, but it's never necessary. And I am just going to move forward to the next guest. This person said they wanted that, so let's see what they want. Hello. How old are you?
21.
Awesome. Will you be voting for? Will you be voting for Donald Trump?
I will.
Okay. And why so?
Why so? Well, I just thought he did a pretty good job. I've seen most of his policies. That gentleman previously talked about how he expanded paternal leave for federal employees for 12 weeks. And, well, I thought that was a pretty good one. And you mentioned how, well, federal employees, well, that was only affecting federal level. And then you said, well, then Congress should make an act to tell all businesses that they must give a certain amount of leave. And I think that would be probably a misuse of power from the legislative branch to issue that authority to on all businesses, such as small businesses. I don't think they could live, say if there's only 5 employees and then one's on maternal leave for 12 weeks, that's a big strain, especially on a small business like that. And I just don't see that being the proper thing to do.
Well, you could then limit it to how much is being given based on the size of the business. I got no problem with that. Same thing with like the ACA did that, right? It said that you had to provide health insurance if you had 100 employees or more, right? Okay, that's fine. And so that's for anybody who didn't. And so I wasn't giving like a steadfast policy. I'm saying Congress should craft a policy, craft a law that will guarantee that people have it, and in those cases where a small business can't afford it, then the federal government kicks in and says that then the federal government will then take over that role, right? But all people who are expectant fathers and mothers should be guaranteed a minimum of paid maternal and paternal leave. I'm saying that as someone who, 1, wants to promote good family policy, but 2, catch up to all of the other countries where we are falling behind because we do not have very good family-oriented policies, and the only person or the only group that could do it would be Congress. That's the main point.
I guess I have a question. Would, say, getting rid of taxes on like baby products as well as diapers, would that be a family-oriented thing that, say, Congress could do or states could do? And is that a good thing?
Depends on the tax. I mean, the House has exclusive control over taxes, so they would have to pass a law saying that this shall not be taxed.
Well, not taxing, say, cribs, strollers, diapers. Is that a family-oriented thing that, say, a state could do and Congress could do?
States would be able to do it if they impose state taxes, but they wouldn't be able to do it on like federal taxes or anything. So like a federal like tax on that kind of thing. I mean, I have no issue with passing bills that target a greater family control or allow it to happen, and if that includes, as you're saying, let's do it with like a tax reduction or something, right? Or maybe like a tax deduction or like a tax write-off or something, right? I'm okay with that too. I got no problem with that.
Well, Ron DeSantis actually did that. He got rid of the taxes.
Okay, great. Then I'm okay with that.
Diapers, right?
And I'm okay with that, right? But let's see. That's one set of policy, though, right? Not being able to afford the tax on it is a far cry from the immediate following, right, of a mother having a child, and that child, or even like with adopted parents, even having that ability to make an income and then to bond with your child in the first 3 to 6 months and all those things, and by the way, be able to have a various help from the government. I think the government should help you in that first year to be able to have a good platform to then have a child. That's the main point. Thank you so much, right? Because I do not want a family that wants a child to go left behind, but I especially don't want the family that maybe had the kid on accident, or the kid might be born into a lower means family. I want the government to provide as much support during that 1 year so that that family can then get off their feet. And I'm not proposing any like major policy. I'm saying this is what should be talked about. And the Republican Party and Donald Trump have not come out with a policy plan that will actually go forward, whereas the Democratic Party and Joe Biden would pass those policies had they hold the House and the Senate. That is much more likely. That's why I think it's a very good issue, because I think we want more people to have children, and the only way to do that is to lower the cost of having a child, which is where the government would step in.
Well, I guess we've seen them in power with all three branches, right? You have the House, the Senate, and then the executive branch, right? I wouldn't say all three branches, because obviously you have judicial, legislative, executive, but three branches that, can write and pass laws, right? You need the head or the executive, you need the House, you need the Senate, right? Because it's a bicameral, right? Is that what we call it? Bicameral?
Yeah. There's a lower house.
Yeah.
Well, we technically have a lower house and an upper house, but they don't call it that. So
Yeah. Yep. And I noticed somebody said here, inflation still makes it hard for families to afford baby needs. Moving taxes is not enough. Well, one, it is a step, and two, inflation, it doesn't really help if we keep feeding the industrial complex. And so something that's really interesting, most people, when they talk about Ukraine spending like 200, I don't know how much we've given. I know a lot of it has been old equipment. I also know that there are certain units that don't have, like, say, radars, right? They're going to be getting the new gen shortly. But right now we have National Guardmen that don't have radars, right? And so we give them a lot of our old stuff, a lot of used stuff. But a lot of that money actually goes towards Raytheon and what else? It's a Lockheed Martin.
Oh, well,
so,
yes, and I'm very much against the idea of like propping up this kind of military complex. I'm very much against that, but I think that trade-off is worth it given the positive benefit for worldwide democracy and stopping Vladimir Putin from coming in and just invading a country. I think that there's a trade-off to that, and the money that is going is not necessarily even just new money. This is money that is simply being reallocated, and so I think. That's why I don't think that the Ukraine funding has much to do with like inflation or anything. It's more so just we disagree about how we should apply it. But I think the application of it, we might be feeding the military complex, but it's in furtherance of a protection of a democracy against a adversary of the United States.
Well, two things there. One, I'll bring up a point that Donald Trump mentioned. We've given 2 times more than all of our European allies, right? He said roughly they gave $100 billion. I'd like to see that because I know Poland is very invested in this. But then we gave $200 billion, right? I understand that those numbers might not be exactly true, but it's kind of making a point nonetheless that we have European allies. It's on the European continent. And they're expecting us to carry the major portion of the load. Now, we already have troops stationed in Germany to put up a defense against Russia. We already have troops in Poland that's to put up a defense against Russia, sorry. And so it's kind of one of those things is, okay, we already have the forces. We already have the money that we're spending here. We have permanent full-time troops in those areas. We were training Ukrainians since 2014, since they took it over in Crimea during Obama's term, right? So how much is enough? How much is a proper deterrent? And then how much are we investing to when we could actually push those things onto our allies, make them carry more of a burden? Because as you said, they have all this childcare stuff. They have all this family-oriented type legislation and bills, yet they can't afford their own defense of their own continent. And so we have to pay.
Well, hold on. Now you're separating. Okay, now you're talking about NATO, not just about Ukraine. So are you going to criticize the Ukraine funding or the NATO funding?
We shouldn't be paying as much as we are to Ukraine. We should be forcing our allies to foot most of the bill because it's their continent.
Okay. Well, hold on. But just because it's their continent doesn't mean anything that we shouldn't go on to it. We put forward about 0.34%, okay? The amount of money that we have given to Ukraine is about 0.34%, okay, of our GDP. Okay, not a 3-4%, 0.34%. So less than a 1 percentage point. So it's small, right? I think at least a plurality of the European countries have put forward more money as a percentage of their GDP than we have. I know that I think Norway has, Poland has, the UK has. All these other countries have put forward more money as a percentage of the GDP towards the defense of NATO than, the defense of Ukraine than we have. So they already are doing their own part. They are doing their own part. Now, yes, could they be paying more for their own defense when it comes to NATO? Sure, that's been a sticking point for decades, right? That's not new. Right? What makes it new with Donald Trump is that he says that if they won't pay, we won't defend them. Right? That is not only bad, but that is a breach of the treaty. We signed a treaty with them. Right? That's what NATO is. So that would be a breach of the treaty, which means why should they ever count on us to do anything for them? Why can we count on them to do something for us?
They breached the treaty first in not paying the 2% GDP
that's not true.
Year on year over year.
No, that's not true.
That is
because they we always said that. Okay, when has Article 5 been invoked? Only once in history. Yes, it has. Only once. Only once.
Was it for Bosnia or
no? 9/11.
Oh, yeah, 9/11. Yep. Okay.
And they all came to our aid. Every single country under the NATO treaty came to our aid.
The funny thing is they still weren't paying their 2% GDP. Also, there are other articles within NATO that also go into that we're not supposed to make a situation worse, is essentially the language. I think it's Article 2, 3, or 4. And what are we doing in Ukraine? If we're propping up troops, if we're giving them exact strategies on how to handle a Russian threat, and if we're donating all this money, right, which is really just going to us, which is already basically inflating the military-industrial complex even larger, which is something I don't want and seems like something you don't want, how is that good? I just don't see it.
No, it's because of the fact is that we would let Europe not pay so much on their bills, right? Let's call it a bill, because we know that they have our back if things go down, because they have already proven it. That's the point, right? They've already said, look. We don't want to pay this much, but if you need us, we're going to be there. And we always believe them. And then the one time in 2001 when we said, okay, countries, now we're going to call and we're going to invoke Article 5. And they all said yes. And they all sent their brothers and their sisters to go die for us. And they did, which is why I said they have proven that they are with us. So I'm willing to let them pass a little bit, right, on not paying as much, given the fact they have proven and that they will abide by the treaty if we need them. That's the whole point, right? It's because if we ever get attacked, like we did on 9/11, the entire European continent, well, most of it, right, would come to our aid. And that's a good thing for any thing that will come up in the future, because we probably will need them in the future. And I don't want to piss them off by saying, pay, or I'm not going to defend you. Yeah, I know, Kitty. And that's the worst thing, because I don't want to have a situation where we are going to have, we're going to need our allies and they're not going to be there for us.
What does money do? Money allows us to build up an infrastructure, allows us to better our communications, allows us to better weaponize ourselves. And so when you don't pay for 50 years, you can show up, but that's like going to the football game without pads on. And that's exactly what they do. Yeah, they showed up, but they were not prepared. And so
they were. Like, hold on. Are you saying that the French troops, that the Italian troops, that the UK troops weren't prepared? They were some of the pivotal moments in our fight in Iraq and in Afghanistan. We needed them there.
The British Army had no ammo. They had to be supplied with ammunitions from us. Their ammo supply is still very, very depleted. And so we need them to be
but they
prepared.
supplied the one thing that we did want, which was bodies. Right? Right? We
like I said,
can
it's
give
like
them ammo.
Trump
I mean, hell,
has
we
them.
we make ammo daily. I mean, that's not a hard thing for us to give is ammo, right? But
Well,
they
another
provided
policy.
the one thing that Americans do not like to give, which is their brothers and their sons and everything to wars, right? Well, these other countries did it. And that's actually what kind of pissed them off about us, is that they started losing sons and daughters to these foreign wars, right?
And they left almost immediately.
Yeah, because there was
Because they weren't
lack
prepared.
of political support. Well, but also there was a lack of support. People in Poland and the UK were like, "Hey, I'm not going to send my a brother to die in Afghanistan when it's a bad war and we shouldn't be there to begin with." That's the point, too, right? Now, look, I think we would argue that should these countries pay more? Yes,
I do apologize.
Oh, it's okay.
I would love to talk more. I do have to go.
Okay, all right.
Just think on it in regards to what I've stated about how it's essentially just propping up our own industrial complex when we could just be spending it on other things, or to be relieving the tax burden on the American people. But I thank you. You're very kind.
Sure.
Maybe we can talk later, but I gotta
Okay,
go.
thanks. Bye-bye. Okay, everybody, I got about 30 minutes left, so I will go to the next person here. Thank you, everybody. I'm sorry to everybody who has been in the chat, and if my mic is a little weird or anything. My mic is a little old, and also it's kind of cheap. Hi, Kyle. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm not too bad. How old are you?
25.
Nice. Okay. Will you be voting for Donald Trump?
Yes.
Okay. Why so?
Look, I think, first of all, I watch you, Parker, all you guys, all the time. And I'd say, really, I was going to be voting for Biden up until the debate the other day, I would say. You know, I know Trump is a terrible person. I know everything he's done, all that kind of stuff. But I can't vote for somebody that has such a hard time kind of speaking on his own.
Okay, so one, I will agree with you that Biden had a bad night, that it was not a good look, that he looked the oldest he's ever looked. So I agree with you on that, right? Okay. But let me ask you this. Do you agree with that, or do you like Donald Trump? Like, do you like him? Like as
No.
a presidential candidate or the person? Okay. So do you like his policies? Or his
Some, but not
proposed
all.
policies? Some and not all. Okay. Do you like Joe Biden as a person? Like, just like who he is.
More so than Trump.
Okay. Do you like Joe Biden's policies?
A good portion of them.
Okay. So, just comparing now, you have already shown two things. You think Biden is a better person than Trump, and you like more of his policies. Okay, and that's already the 2 or 2. And the only dividing line is that Biden is basically too old, right? That you're saying is Biden is too old, right?
Yeah, I mean,
He can't speak.
I've
Okay.
seen reports after the debate. I mean, we've got allies around the country. I mean, not around the country, around the world, concerned about the president. And
Well, I would say, what are they more concerned about? Are they concerned that Biden is too old and therefore, he, won't speak that well? Or are they concerned about Trump getting into office and completely alienating all of the European continent, siding with Vladimir Putin, siding with Kim Jong-un, siding with all these other people in deference to the European allies? I think they're much more scared of that than they are of Joe Biden not being able to say a sentence that well because he's 81 years old or 82, right? I think you answered your own question, I think, really, right? Because if you agree with Joe Biden more on policy and you think he's a better person, right? What makes you think that you voting for Donald Trump is going to, one, make your life better, do anything to make the overall country better because you disagree with him on policy? So, I mean, I would rather, this is me, and I don't know if you agree with this, but I'd rather have a zombie within the White House, somebody who at least can, sign a bill, right, to sign a bill into law, then have somebody who's in the White House who's going to make policy decisions that I disagree with, right? Because Joe Biden's not making the law, right? That's the Congress. He just signs the law, right? But I want him to be able to be there so that he can veto laws or do that. I don't want somebody in the White House who's going to vote for policy that I disagree with.
I for the most part, I agree. For me, it's more so, and bear with me, this is my first ever coming on anybody's live, but if they replace him like they're in the potential talks of doing, there's a much higher likely chance of me voting blue, voting Democrat. But I just, even taking into consideration everything Trump has done, and like I said, I've watched you guys for a very long time now. I know everything that he's done, all that kind of stuff. I still, he's coherent enough to be president versus the other guy, and that's kind of just where I'm at.
But let's look at it this way, right? The president is not just himself, right? It's people who he surrounds himself with, right? So even if we have a Weekend at Bernie's moment, right, where it's people trying to keep Biden up, right? You have a vice president, you have a cabinet, you have agencies that are going to help him along to be able to make the decision, right? Now, I would rather have Joe Biden in office because even if he has a very, very bad day, like he did on Thursday, right, where he looks, where he looks old, right? Even if he had that bad day, there are people around him who are going to continue that policy that I support, right? Joe Biden is still going to be able, right, to do his official duties, right? He might not be able to give like a press conference. He might not be able to travel that much, right? But his official duties he'll be able to actually do. Unlike Donald Trump, who's going to put in people who are going to make sure that the policies that you disagree with and that harm the country will become law, right? So as I said, it's not just Joe Biden, right? It's Joe Biden plus a range of people who agree with us on policy, who are going to make sure that things go forward and will continue, or Donald Trump and all of his sycophants passing policies that you disagree with.
Do you think the way he performed in the debate the other night is how he performs behind closed doors?
No. You want to know why? Because the next day, he was different, right? He was energetic. He was rousing. He didn't veer off, right? He was an entirely different person. I think what it was, if you want my honest opinion, is that it was 9 p.m. at night. He was 82, and his brain was like, this is way past my bedtime.
But don't you think a president should be able to perform at any hour of the day or night?
No, because they're human. I don't expect that of Donald Trump, right? I want Donald Trump to get sleep. I don't want him to be awake at 3 a.m. on the toilet, trying to tweet about the latest thing, as happened in 2018 and 19, where he would be tweeting at like 2 a.m. No, I want my president to get sleep, right? Joe Biden needs more sleep probably than Barack Obama did, right? Because he's older. Okay, I understand that, right? But he'll wake up in the morning, he'll do his job, he'll do the things that he needs to do, and most importantly, he will be the person that has the veto pen to stop crazy Republicans from passing crazy laws. Because he'll be able, no matter how tired he is, he'll be able to sign something. or to send something back to the House. Right? So that's where I get. That's why I get comfort, is that even if Joe Biden has a bad day, like a bad old person moment, I know that the machinations of government will continue working because he has put in people that know what they're doing, that have the same policy positions as I do, and will move the country forward, and he will still be able to carry out all of his duties. I have not seen any evidence that he cannot carry out his duties. Right? He might need more sleep. He might be able, he might need like a rest day or something. But that still doesn't matter. That the policy that I want to be put into office is going to happen because Joe Biden is there versus Donald Trump. And I think you agree with me only because you said that you agree with him mostly on policy. And I cannot fathom voting for somebody who I disagree with policy on simply because the other guy is old. If Joe Biden was 95, I would still be voting for him, right? I wouldn't be happy about it, right? You know that song by Bo Burnham,
I do not.
Okay, there's a song by Bo Burnham called "Why is the Best Case Scenario Joe Biden?" Like it's very timely, right? I'm not saying that I want Joe Biden to be president. I'm not saying that. Right? I'm saying it's the best choice that I have, given that the Republican Party and Donald Trump are so batshit crazy, and that the policy proposals are so batshit crazy, that Joe Biden is the only one who can actually stop that line. Then fine, I'll take fucking a weekend at Bernie's then, because then in 4 years I'll vote in somebody who's a lot younger.
Okay.
And again, we have checks in place that if anything goes badly, right, there's a list, there's a succession. There are people in his orbit who will be able to hold on to the reins. I have full faith in that, and again, I think also too, Donald Trump is not also this like spry guy of like 50, right? He's 78 years old. He is, he's not that healthy, honestly. Thank you for the hat. Thank you so much. He's not that healthy.
I would say, I mean, he says some crazy shit, but
he says crazy shit, and he lies, and he has no policy proposals. He says things just out of his ass. He wants to do crazy things like make a 10% tariff on all goods, make a 68% tariff on all Chinese goods. He wants to get rid of the income tax to have a universal tariff. You think that's going to help you or me?
I mean, I don't necessarily agree with that. I mean, I don't know much about economics and how stuff like that would impact.
We already have analyses of it, right? We have an analysis by, I think it's 10 economists, did an analysis of his tariff and said that it would cost Americans $2,500 more per year if he just put on his 10% tariffs. Not even the 68% one, just the 10% one. $2,500 more per year per person within the United States.
And you're saying he's wanting to take away the federal income tax?
Yes. He wants to replace the federal income tax with a tariff. So not only a basic minimum tariff, he wants a 10% tariff on all goods and a 68% tariff on all Chinese goods. Oh, by the way, we get most of our goods from China. So we're going to be paying. So think of Walmart. How much are the Walmart products going to cost now because of that 68% tariff?
Probably much higher.
Probably much higher, right?
Well, then they already are.
Yeah, then they already are, right? And that's without a tariff, right? Now, we're not talking about him lowering the various tax levels. He wants to get rid of it. And by the way, the Tax Foundation, which is a neutral foundation, by the way, it has both Republicans and Democrats, did an analysis of his having no federal income and replacing it with that tariff, found that the math doesn't work. You cannot replace the amount of money that we need with that tariff. The tariff would have to be so high that it makes it unworkable. The math doesn't work. And that's the point. He doesn't care about the policy. He's not sitting down and thinking through the policy. He has called himself Mr. Tariff, but yet tariffs largely don't work. right? And we know that. But that's the cornerstone of his economic policy is a 10% tariff and then a 68% tariff on Chinese goods. And that's going to cause more people to lose more money, and it's going to cause inflation to go higher. It's going to cause the various products to have more in prices. But no one talks about that. Oh, yeah, but I want to vote for that just because Joe Biden's old as fuck. No.
Yeah,
No, sorry.
I understand how it sounds. I mean, I probably sound like a broken record at this point. I mean, you probably hear this all the time. But you mentioned the line of secession a few minutes ago. I'd be more so worried going down that line with Kamala Harris taking over. I mean, she has worse polls than he does right now, even after the debate.
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, but yet, let's think about it logically, though. Kamala Harris, though, basically has the same policies as Joe Biden. So if you agree with Joe Biden on most policies, then you agree with Kamala Harris. And I personally don't foresee any chance that Kamala Harris will be president, even if Joe Biden is like, a weekend at Bernie's or anything. I just don't see it happening, right? I think she would have to run on her own merits and everything like that. So, but again, I think the point still is there that the policy proposals of Donald Trump are so bad that we need somebody at a minimum just to be a safeguard against any Republican nonsense, and that's Joe Biden, because at least he can still sign a pen, and he can sign a law into act, or he can veto it. And really, that's the most important. And by the way, he can appoint people to the courts. That's very important too. The courts are so important, and if Donald Trump gets elected, he's going to be able to appoint more and more and more people to the federal benches, and I want that to stop. I want Joe Biden to continue his already historic streak of putting those on the benches of who I agree with, and not radical right-wing conservatives who want to strip environmental laws and strip laws about the FDA and do all this other stuff. That scares just scares me to death. And so I want Joe Biden to be in there because he can at least nominate people.
Right. Okay. Last thing, real quick. I think the Democratic Party, especially after the debate, is kind of at this crazy crossroads right now. Do you think they will replace Biden sometime here soon before the convention?
I said
just have a quick question.
Oh, sure, go
A
ahead.
quick question, and then I'm gonna dip out for a second. But wasn't Roosevelt kind of at the end of his presidency? Wasn't he not really able to do like a whole hell of a lot with his
Wilson.
polio and?
Not Roosevelt. Woodrow Wilson was.
Oh, thank you. So, like, wasn't that like we've kind of seen what that's like in the past of like having a president that's not, maybe 1,000%.
I mean that's a good point. I mean, FDR died while in office, and probably in the last month or so that he was alive, he probably was like faltering. But Woodrow Wilson actually had a stroke and was like bedridden, and so like he actually wasn't there. And so yeah, I mean we do have like examples of this, but I don't think there's any evidence that Joe Biden's going to have a stroke or anything like that. I think
No, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying that this has happened in the past where we've had presidents who are basically dead, who are still in the office. Yeah, this is not new.
Yeah, I think
But was
that
it-
was just kind of my only question/point. But okay, bye.
Boy, babe.
But was it at the end of a presidency trying to go into a second term? Either of these cases that you just
Well,
brought?
Roosevelt. Well, this was. I mean, Wilson. No, this was at the end of his second term. So this was at the middle or end of his second term. Roosevelt was in his fourth term, and he would. And this was 1945. So, 1945. Yeah, and so and then same thing with Kennedy though. I mean, Kennedy had Addison's disease and would take like periods off right? Like off, like he just wouldn't work, right? I mean that happened. Ronald Reagan was showing his age in 1984 when he was running for re-election. In fact, Ronald Reagan had a similar debate performance as Joe Biden. People made fun of his age and everything because at the time he was the oldest president, at the time, and Ronald Reagan did terrible in his first debate of his re-election campaign, and he then went on to win 49 states, and he then developed Alzheimer's halfway through his second term. So,
Okay.
so this, yeah, I mean, these things happen, right? I mean, these things happen. I mean, but again, I think the point is more so if you care about policy, which I hope you do, and I think you do, right? You care about policy. Why the hell would you want to vote for somebody who is against most of the policies that you agree with, simply because Joe Biden had one day, right? This is only one example of a time when he looked his age. Because the very next day, he gave a rally in North Carolina, and he did not look 82.
I mean, I can't speak to the level of energy that he had the next day. I don't know. Maybe he got.
I mean, it wasn't like he wasn't like jumping up and down, but he didn't stammer like he did, right? I mean, even though he has a stutter, but
must have gotten some good sleep.
Yes, yeah, exactly. He must have got some good sleep, right? Exactly. I think that's exactly it. I think he was tired. And plus they said he had a cold, and he was probably hopped up on like cold meds, and he was overworked and everything. Because, I mean, there's a lot of issues here. I'm not saying you have to believe all of them, right? I'm saying, though, he had a bad debate because he's 82 years old. He was probably past his bedtime, and he was slightly sick too, right? And then the very next day, he got sleep. He probably felt a little bit better, and he gave a rousing speech. He looked good. He sounded good. He sounded like he should have sounded in the debate. I think we have evidence that Joe Biden is just old. And again, I was the first one when I watched the debate with Parker and with Dean and everything. I was the first one to say it that this does not look good. And that we should think here. But then things got a little bit better, right, with his performance. And I think I overreacted a little bit because I sat down and thought on it and said, you know what? Yes, he might be old, but this guy's policy and actions are so bad that I would vote for a stick. Because that's how much I disagree with this man. Right? And both in terms of morality, behavior, character, and policy.
Okay.
And again, I'm not voting for Joe Biden. I'm voting against Donald Trump. And so that's my position, and I will continue to say that Joe Biden is the better candidate for all of these reasons about policy and behavior and morality, but I'm not going to argue and say that he's like a young spry guy. He's not. He is an old man, but I would rather have an old man who is going to pass good policy than a somewhat younger old man who's going to pass terrible policy.
Yeah, I mean, I somewhat disagree. I just. And I won't take too much more of your time, but I'm not a neurologist or anything like that, but I am not the only person that believes it's more than just him experiencing old age.
Yes, I know. I feel this all the time. I don't believe that Joe Biden is suffering from dementia or anything like that. I see no evidence of that. I don't think. Well. It's not early onset because early onset is before the age of 65, and so he's 82, so it's not early onset. But even the early stages of it, I know I know what a dementia looks like in the early stages. I don't see this as dementia. I see this as old age memory loss, right? My grandfather is 80. He was born in 1940, so he's 84. He also, has trouble with his memory and everything, right? I mean, he also, but he's like Biden. He can speak, he can do all these things, but every once in a while he has a bad day, and everything. And I just sincerely think he's just an old man, and again, I understand why for many people that's a problem, because they're scared of, like, what if he dies, or is unalive, halfway through his term or something. But again, we have no evidence that he is medically anything wrong with him, right? Other than the fact that he is just an old man who has memory lapses every once in a while, just as Donald Trump does, by the way. Donald Trump forgets things often. People just don't notice it because he says so much bullshit. That people just don't understand. Yeah, I mean, he rambled about sharks and batteries for fucking 5 minutes. He's mistaken people. He said, for example, he took a neurology test that showed that he had perfect, amazing cognition, and that his doctor, Ronnie Johnson, gave it to him. Except that his doctor is named Ronnie Jackson, and so he got the name mixed up. And he said that 5 times afterwards, right? And so, okay, why are I don't like the kind of whataboutism, but okay, but Joe Biden forgets a name, people harp on it. Donald Trump rambles about battery sharks and not remembering his doctor's name, and no one bats an eye. Right? Donald Trump does this all the time too, and that's a problem. And I just think people don't realize it, because Donald Trump is able to talk in full rambling sentences, right? Whereas Joe Biden is much slower, and he talks more kind of like this, and he kind of stumbles a little bit, so people can pick up on it, more often.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna be following along very closely over the next few months. Somebody in your comments asked me that second debate if he performs much better, if I would change my mind, and I'm gonna go into it with an open mind. And
well, let me put it this way to you. I think that's a good thing, but look over the month of July and August. Look at any time he is public. Right, anytime he's doing a public thing, a rally, look at how he performs, and see if he looks like he's 82 or he's going crazy, or look at when he talks and just see if things get better, if he's changed. Because I think he thought that he was going to do better, and then he saw how badly he did, and now I think he's oh shit, I need to do better. I'm going to put on my A game or something. Right? I hope that's the thing, I hope he does better, but I don't foresee him getting dropping out. I think it's non-zero chance, but it's a very, 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 very low chance.
But I think there's a difference between, and somebody mentioned I'm putting too much weight on the debates. The only reason I am is because I think there's a difference between when he's talking without a teleprompter, and when he's talking at these rallies with a teleprompter.
And by the way, I just want to say, as someone, because he does have a stutter, and as someone like myself who has a stutter, as you notice, as I've talked through this whole thing, right, I'm not using a teleprompter. This is me talking as I'm thinking on my feet, right? I get that. And I stutter quite a bit, but here's what I'm saying. You combine that with old age, right, then it gets worse. That's the problem, because I watched the debate, and I could tell several times that not when he was just forgetting things, but there were several times when he was actively stuttering, right? And it was an actual stutter and everything. I think old age makes it more apparent, because your body is less able to figure this stuff out, and so I think it's much more of a thing that he has some difficulties that Trump doesn't have. And Trump is, able to speak full sentences. It's just that they happen to be lies, and they happen to be rambling, and they have to be and all over the fucking place. And Joe Biden is just much more slow and thoughtful about what he says, and it just happens that he forgets and that he trails off a little bit and everything, and that he just shows his age. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you and say that he's not 82 and not like an old man. I just think I'd rather have an old man than a wannabe dictator.
But is a stutter where you kind of trip over your words, but you ultimately get it, or you?
Depends on the stutter. I have what's known as blocks. So I don't go like that. I don't do that. I have blocks where my throat will freeze up, and I'll do like this kind of like face where like my mouth and my throat will like tense up, and I can't say the word, even though I know what I want to say. My vocal cords will not allow me to say it, and so I will tense up. And often what happens is when in that moment your body and your brain will like freak out, and you have to come up with something different. So like for example, a little bit ago I tried to say Utah, and I could not for the life of me say I have such trouble with vowels. So I tried to say Utah, and it would not allow me to say it. And so what I usually do is I try to say a synonym of the word that will then allow me to say it. But Joe Biden, probably because he's thinking on his feet and he has the stutter and all that, he can't think that fast like I can. Whereas I can tell when it's coming, and I can tell, okay, I'm going to stutter here. I need to figure out like another word to say, and I'll say it. Like for example, any word that starts with like a vowel or has a strong vowel in it, I will try to replace it with a word that's much more weaker, right? And I'll try to do that. But I don't know when it's coming. Sometimes it just happens when I'm talking, and I have to think on my feet real quick and try to do it. I personally, I don't give a shit anymore, so I just stutter. Like if people want me to, have a problem with it, then they can go fuck themselves, and I'll just stutter, right? Whereas Joe Biden doesn't have that luxury. People judge him based on how he speaks. He can't just be up there and just tense up and stutter or go up, because people judge him based on that. Because not only does he have a stutter, but also they say, well, he's 82, so that kind of thing. And so the overall point that I'm trying to make is, he has overcome his stutter pretty well, but I have seen more and more that as he gets older, it comes out more. And I think that's because his brain is not as fast to be able to pick up on that it's happening, and it just happens, and then people perceive that as him just being really old or something. When as I've gotten older, I've noticed that I'm starting to stutter more, because my brain just cannot keep up with the amount of studying that I'm doing, and I have good days and I have bad days. There's some days that I don't stutter at all, like it's an amazing day, right? And other days where I just can't stop stuttering. And so I think Joe Biden during that time probably just was tired, was old, was stuttering, and he just had a bad debate. But I would say, and this last thing that I'll say, and then I'll get off, was that I think I would hope that all I ask of you is that you give it like a month or two, see how it goes from here, and then come back to either me or Parker, and we can talk about it. Because I think, because I just can't understand how someone who sees Joe Biden's policies and says, yeah, I like that, but I'm going to vote for the other guy who has policies that I disagree with. That to me is something that I just cannot do. And so we can talk more about that, but let's see how July goes. How about that?
Okay, sounds good. Thanks for having me up.
Okay. Thanks, Kyle. Have a good day.
You too, bye.
Yep. Bye-bye. All right, everybody. I'm going to get off. I got some stuff I got to do. I got some work. I've been on for about 2 hours, I think. 2 hours? Yep. 2 hours. Thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. I had a great time. Thank you all, everybody that did gift. I'm sorry about the mic issues. My mic is older, and I don't have the money. I mean, I do, but I don't want to spend the money to buy a brand new high spanking mic or anything. So hopefully it's not too bad or anything. But thank you all for being here. I will try to be back whenever I have free time and do more debates. But thank you all for being here, and I hope you all have an amazing day wherever you are. Go watch my latest video. It is on the Trump v. United States case. Go watch it, go like it, go share it, and I will see you all later. So have a great day. Bye-bye, everyone. Take care.